Leifso. Welcome to Mismatched. So for people who don't know, Brandi is a survivor of domestic violence. You were in a shelter at one point in time, and now you've created a multi-million-dollar company, Evio Beauty. You speak on international stages. You have won countless awards, one recently. Congratulations for your new under eye mask. I can't wait to try it. You lead also purpose-driven impact consulting. You inspire so many people. I want to start from the get-go. First of all, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me,
I'm so
Nicole.
excited to talk to you. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning, if we may, so that everyone can get to know you. I guess the first question I have to ask is do you ever wonder how did I get here? From one extreme to another, do you kind of pinch yourself and it's how did I get here?
Every day. But at the same time, I feel like in so many ways, nothing has changed, but everything has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever
That's
feel
really
that way about
beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell me, now you grew up in the prairies, right?
I mean,
All over.
it's a long story. I initially grew up on a dairy farm in Bruce County, so about 3 hours from Toronto. So I'm a farm girl.
I love that. I love that. And then you moved out west.
Yes.
So growing up, what were some of your interests, in school? Tell me a little bit about what your passion was and what you were interested in.
Yeah. I left school in grade 8. Grade 8 was my last year of formal education. I did end up getting my GED, so I did graduate high school, but it was by mailing in modules towards the end of it. And I was a competitive ice dancer, so figure skating was my escape from.
I used to figure skate when I was young as well.
Stop.
Yeah, where did you train out of?
In Edmonton.
Oh, in Edmonton.
Out
Okay,
of
very
Mayfair
cool.
and Royal Glenora area.
Okay,
yeah,
very cool. So did you do ice dancing single or pairs? Pairs. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Did you do singles? Or
I
pairs?
was singles. Yeah, I was little. So I did I was a single skater. So I did jumps and all that. But they wanted to put me in pairs as I started getting older, and the fact that I didn't grow.
I was just going to say because you're so petite, you can be thrown around.
Yeah, exactly. But I stopped when I was 10. And I didn't get to that part of it.
That was when I got into pairs. When I was 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
Actually, I was kind of in it earlier, but then became competitive around that age.
Is that why you didn't go to high school? Yes. So that's why I didn't, I stopped at that point because same thing, they want you to be homeschooled or just, live, breathe, and eat, everything that has to do with figure skating.
Absolutely. And so there was a hockey program, as there was. This was years ago.
Yeah.
And so there was a hockey program where the boys would go to school. They would train in the morning for their hockey camps, and then they'd go to school in the afternoon. So my mom thought naturally we'll just put her in that. She's at a more advanced stage in her skating career than most of the hockey boys. So naturally this would be a fit, and the school wouldn't allow it. They said that's just for the hockey boys.
Really?
So my mom was then she's not coming back. And it was just kind of a heated moment that wasn't thought through. So homeschooling didn't happen. No one took responsibility for my schooling. So it just kind of fell to the wayside. But I skated, and that was my escape from anything going on at home or anything going on in my life. And so I skated a lot. And then my partner quit, really abrupt too.
Oh.
And it was it was when MSN was still a thing.
Yes.
And he didn't come to the rink one day, and we're what is going on? Is he okay? What is happening? And then I got a message on MSN being I'm not coming back.
No.
What is happening?
And it was left field, there was no signs. He never mentioned it before.
I mean, it's a difficult sport.
Yeah.
All sports are difficult. But
yes, but it's mentally and physically so intense. And unless you're in it, honestly, it's really hard for people to understand that.
The mental part, I think, is a really hard
because
part.
skating coaches are a little different, wired differently, is what I say with love.
Yeah, my coach was amazing.
Yeah.
I have to say, his name was Kevin, and he was a really great, stable mentor in my life, and a really safe place for me. He was fantastic, and it was a surprise to him too. But it's a big mental game. I think, especially for men in figure skating, can be even more like a mental hurdle to get over. And I say that because like things came to me more naturally, where I think my partner had to work a lot harder for it. And that can be a challenge when you're in a team, and maybe sometimes you feel like you're letting the team down, or it can be challenging. And he was always homeschooled, so it's not like his life changed drastically to be a part of this. And also we just started doing well. And so also, I mean, I know from my career too, that when you start doing well, sometimes the mental hurdles get even bigger.
Right. There's more pressure to keep going and do more then, right? So yeah. You said it was a nice escape. What was it about figure skating that was like, what were you trying to like escape from, like mentally?
Yeah, I think I had a challenging upbringing, so it was just, escaping from home, escaping from just what life looked like at that time. I lived in a shelter as a child as well.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think that, that just kind of like colors your upbringing a little bit. I was 6 months old the first time I lived in a shelter. So I think that that was just something that was like deep rooted in me. I internalized a lot of things. And so when you get on the ice, it just is, what freshly smelled like Zamboni ice, that smell really to nice. It and that glide to it. And it just felt like freedom. It felt like, your brain just goes quiet and just focuses on what you're doing. Yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear that. That must have not been easy. And you have a sister as well, right?
I have many sisters.
You have many sisters?
Yeah.
How many sisters do you have?
I have 9 brothers and sisters.
What? You have 9 brothers and sisters?
I know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you all grow up together?
So all in like multiple different homes.
Yeah.
So I have 2 sisters with the same mom and dad, and I'm close with them. They're incredible. And then my dad got remarried. My mom is with a new partner. So then I had step siblings come into the picture. And then my dad had more kids. So then I have half siblings in the picture too. And yeah, so it was the summers I spent at my dad's. So then I'd be with that whole family. And then the rest of the time I'd be with my mom. So then I'd be with that whole family. So never really collectively all together at once, but had relationships with all of them. Yeah.
When you were in a shelter with so who were you with at that point?
My mom and my 2 sisters.
Your mom and your 2 sisters. Where are you in the mix of your 2 sisters? Like eldest?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So were they kind of like protective over you, or you over them sometimes? It's like the reverse as well.
Honestly, I'm too young to I was way too young to remember.
What do they tell you? Do you guys talk about it?
We do. I keep a lot of it private from that, because something that has become like more challenging is the more that my story becomes more public, other people
are like looking into. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So other people have like their own, experiences and healing to go through on the process as well. So it's always really challenging to kind of reflect on like the conversations that we're having, and to also try to like respect the privacy of their own healing journeys as well.
For sure.
But one thing that I reflect on a lot, and actually I'll tell you a story about this, because one thing that my sister, she was 5 when we lived in the shelter then, and she always talks about how great the toys were there. Like, she just remembers the toys.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful memory.
It is. And in March, I actually got a speaking engagement, and it was in Bruce County. And this was wild, because the reason why they went to my manager was because they've worked with her before. They hired one of her speakers before, and so they went back to her. When they hired me, they didn't know that I was from Bruce County.
Oh, and you're kidding.
No, they had no idea.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So when they put me on hold for this project, then my manager called me and she said, "Hey, you're on hold for International Women's Day for Bruce, and these are the dates and times, like hold your calendar." And I was like, that's wild. I'm from Bruce. I grew up on a dairy farm out there. And she's like, "No way, I'm going to let the client know," because they love to support local.
Yeah.
And so she called back, told the client that I was from Bruce. They're like, "She's booked." And so then the date ended up getting shifted because there was a huge snowstorm on that day. It was like the beginning of March, and we had wild weather this year. And so the date got shifted till March 20th. And I didn't know, like, obviously I knew some details around it, but I go do my job and like leave, you know?
Yeah. You're like in and out.
Yeah. And so when they told me that they were raising money for a shelter, and they also,
I know where this is going.
They said that they were raising money for a shelter, and every single time I do a talk anywhere globally, I always donate a wellness day to a local shelter the following day. And so they told us what shelter they wanted me to go to the following day. And it was the shelter that I lived in when I was 6 months old.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah. How long ago was this?
This was like 2 months ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a wild healing journey.
I can't even imagine going back now and seeing, and especially because you were so young, right?
Absolutely. And the wild thing about it too was like there was this little girl who was like 5 who was in our wellness moment with us, and it was really reflective and also super healing. Like I have a great relationship with my family out there, and they've gone through their own healing journey as well. And it was incredible just to like share in that experience together, and it really shifted my mindset. Like I didn't know I needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, it's wild how sometimes the universe does that for you, of like all these things aligning and putting something in front of you or steering you in a direction that maybe you didn't know that you needed to kind of revisit or experience.
Totally. Like in moments like that, you can't deny that there is like a greater being at work, or that there's a universe. Like what how did that happen?
Does this happen?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was wild.
Well, I'm glad that you got to, because that's really cool. Okay. So going back to, post figure skate. So when did you continue skating? Like what was the journey like for you when your partner stopped?
Yeah. So I tried to find another partner, and I wasn't able to like, I tried out for some teams. I didn't make the teams. And so then I just moved on, and I ended up actually moving. I was 17 at the time. And so I ended up moving to Vancouver just like on a whim for a job. I was an assistant at a talent agency. And so I moved there, and that's kind of where I started the rest of my life and journey. And
like a fresh start.
Yeah. And I wasn't skating anymore, but a part of me still, like, my dream always was to try out for Disney on Ice.
Oh, no way.
And I wanted to play Belle from Beauty and the Beast on Disney on Ice. And, like, that was what I was sure I was going to do. But I didn't continue to skate after that, no.
Yeah. Do you still skate today?
No, I mean, like, I could get out on the ice and
skate
survive.
Around. Yeah. That's what I say too. I'm like, I could go and like not fall and do some edges and things, but yeah, fair. Okay, so what was it like moving? Also, like super young to be on your own and kind of starting anew in a new place. It's a bit scary.
Honestly, I don't think I gave it too much thought.
No?
I think at that age, I was just like,
you're ready.
Yeah, and also just I'm probably not ready. Like I now in retrospect, yeah. I think any 17-year-old thinks they know more than they do. So I didn't give it too much thought. Now in retrospect, a lot of the things that I've done, I'm like, what were you thinking? I don't know if I'd have the guts to do it now.
Well, I was just gonna say, to be honest, like I think the younger you are, the less thought that you give to things. You just kind of do it because you don't know any better. And like the older you get, obviously the more lessons and experience that you have. So it's like you look back and you're like, I was crazy for doing that. How did I even think that was okay? Or now I would never do that. There's a lot of that perspective.
Totally. And sometimes I even look back on things being like, wow, I would never do that now, but I wish I would.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't have the guts to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember yourself at that moment. That's the inspiration. If I could do that, then I can do it. Okay. So what transpired, from like moving your life there? And I know you met someone and tell me about that.
Yeah. So I moved to Vancouver and I met somebody there who was an entrepreneur, and I had never seen anything like that, like farm girl to being homeschooled to this whole new world. And so there was a lot of good things that came from, experiencing a totally different world that, this partner introduced me to. But ultimately, he really struggled with his mental health and with addiction, and our relationship turned abusive. And in a lot of self-reflection too, I think, a lot of us kind of mimic what we've experienced, or mimic what is comfortable, even if it's not good for us. And so I've had to go through a lot of self-reflection in order to ensure that I don't continue to perpetuate unhealthy relationships in my life. So I want to be, like take accountability where accountability is due. But at the same time, I mean, you never take accountability for someone else's actions.
100%.
And so unfortunately, we were together for 3 years and our relationship fell apart in a disastrous way. And I ended up living in a safe house shelter.
So that's so difficult. I can't even imagine. Let's backtrack for a second, Brandi. How did you guys meet?
My best friend from middle school, it was her cousin.
It was her cousin.
Yeah.
So in the 3 years that you were together, what was your relationship like? You fell in love with him for a reason. Obviously,
Totally.
things were great.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of things today that, I mean, I still so admire that I have learned from this man and from the experiences that he has exposed me to. I am an entrepreneur today because of the lessons I've learned from him. And I really, really appreciate that. There was a lot of highs, very high highs, and things I had never experienced before, like luxury trips. And there was a sense of like deep love, like we took care of each other and we understood each other and we had patience for each other and kindness for each other. And then there was the flip side of it where the highs were so high and the lows were so low. So it was a roller coaster of a relationship. And then add a mix, of definitely struggling with addiction and mental health. And I was 19 years old.
Yeah. It's like, how do you deal with this?
Yeah, I didn't have the tools to navigate any of that. And he was a much older man than I was. And he had, this whole life experience and, communicated in a way that was manipulative and controlling. And, he had his own challenges. And again, like, I don't want to speak for someone and I definitely don't want to vilify anybody.
No.
Because, people are hurt people. I truly believe that.
For sure.
And so, it fell apart in an awful way. I mean, over time. And it slowly broke me down until I was a shell of a human. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. I dated someone from like my early 20s who also battled with addiction. And it wasn't like off the top. It was like he had tragedy in his life while we were dating. And then kind of didn't get the help that he needed. It was like there was pressure for me to kind of save him, quote unquote. And it was like I wasn't equipped to do that at that time. I have no idea. I've never, dealt with this before. I said, like, you need to speak to someone, you need help. And unfortunately, he didn't seek the help. So I chose to walk away. But it was really hard seeing someone that you love kind of become this other person when this, when something kind of it's like it takes over, and it's really tough because at the same time you're so hurt by the things that they're saying and doing to you, but also you have so much love for them and you're trying to understand why they're doing what they're doing or why they're saying what they're saying. It's like I don't know you, Brandi, but you strike me as someone who has a lot of empathy. And so in doing that, then it makes it even harder to leave because you see the best in someone and you want to believe that they can be that person all the time. Was there like a moment for you that you were like, I can't take this anymore? For me, the moment was when he like disappeared for like 3 days.
Oh my gosh, I'm literally having like a trigger moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was almost the exact same experience.
You're kidding. It was like and we talk all day, every day. We would see each other all the time. And he disappeared for 3 days. And I was like having like a panic attack. I was calling his mom. I'm like, I don't know where. She's like, I don't know where he is. Just like disappeared and then came back and was like, it was so strange because it was like nothing had happened. He was like, I'm fine. I'm sorry. My phone wasn't working. All these things where I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This is totally.
Yeah. And then you start to question your own reality.
100%. And then my back starts getting up and I'm irritable and I'm like on edge, kind of looking for more reason because this like, it just doesn't add up. And then I found like empty bottles, vodka bottles underneath his bed one day. And that was like, I was like, oh, like this is so much worse than I even thought what was actually like going on. So sorry, I'm sharing
No.
but like, so how can you relate of the disappearing?
Yeah, similar experience. He disappeared for a few days, and we lived together. So it was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And he would call me almost every 30 seconds. I got hundreds of calls in a day,
Kidding.
and they were just non-coherent type calls, and it was scary also. And this is when I realized that things were really bad, because he would call me and ask me very particular questions about text messages I received or emails that I received, like this extreme paranoia.
Interesting.
And I was like, how does he even know my sister texted me that or this? And I recognized that he had turned like my
like the iCloud, so he could receive.
So he tracked and followed everything I was doing. And he was really paranoid. So everything was twisted. So every communication I had with anyone was being scrutinized. Anytime I left the house, it was being scrutinized. I went to the mall to buy him a Christmas present. He wanted this belt. So I went to the mall to go get a belt, and I heard my name on the intercom of the mall. He had called the mall to confirm that I was where I said I was going to be.
You're kidding.
It
like
was
we're
like,
looking for a brand. No. Wow.
And it just, and then so those things were stacking up. He disappeared for days, and that's when he was calling me multiple times too. And then he called me to tell me where he was and that he needed help. And it was like 3 hours away. I drove there in the middle of the night.
Wow.
I got there, and he was so thin. He was not the person that I knew. And I remember being scared of him in that moment. And in the past, like, there was a lot of like empathy towards what was happening and trying to rationalize it, and sometimes even blaming myself. And in this moment, it was a different kind of fear. And that's when I knew, like, I need to leave.
Did he ever lay a hand on you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there was, and when I ended up finding him, like when I went and drove to him, he had like, he was so like really struggling. And he had sticky notes all over his hotel room. And they said, get her before she gets you. And I just realized, like, I became the villain in his story when he's in these paranoia states. And something is very, very wrong. And that's when I knew, like, I can't be a part of helping this person because I'm the villain in his paranoia. Mm-hmm. And so I realized that, and I had an experience about 6 months before that where someone actually who I met through the talent agency, she was a model and an actor at the agency that I worked for, was killed by her ex-boyfriend. And that was constantly cycling in my mind. And so it was then that I knew, like, I need to leave. This has gotten wild. But then at the same time, it's challenging because then literally, you know, the day after,
fear of what he's going to find me and what's going to happen if he finds me.
And then we drove home and pretended like nothing happened.
Really?
And it was weeks. And even after I left and went to the shelter, I still went back like multiple times. And statistically, it does take somebody 7 times before they leave for good, mm-hmm. or unfortunately lose their life. Like, it's not an easy, okay, I'm just going to leave, because there is so much love there and there's so much positivity and there is so much highs. You know, it's not like the relationship is awful all the time.
No.
So it plays with your mind and your sense of normalcy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In kind of going back and forth and dealing with this, was there anyone at work or anyone outside of your relationship that you told who knew kind of what was going on, or that you could find like comfort or guidance in?
Yeah, there was this one moment that that I reflect on, because it's why I think that it's an important thing to have a domestic violence leave policy within corporations and businesses. Is at the time I was working for a jewelry company, and my boss she's an incredible human being, incredible. And we became good friends, and so we hung out outside of work sometimes too. Mm-hmm. And she'd come over to our house, and she had met my partner, and he'd also dropped me off at work quite a bit as well. And that wasn't out of being kind. It was out of specifically, if he drops me off there, it was kind of in the middle of nowhere.
He knew where you were.
And then he'd pick me up. And so she got an email from him. I was late getting to work one day, and she got an email from him asking if I was at work because I wasn't answering my phone and that he needed to know if he needed to pick me up. And so she, as soon as I got there, she said, "Oh, I got, this message." And I immediately, like, my heart sunk to my stomach. And I was like, "Can I talk to you outside?" And I went outside and I said, I'm living in a safe house shelter. Like, he cannot know where I am. And that was when, people started to be more familiar and like started to kind of connect the dots of what was happening. But I really kept it to myself. I was ashamed. I was super, super ashamed for sure. And also, I mean, when you live in a safe house shelter, you can't tell anyone where you are. You can't share the address. You can't, it's intended to stay private for everyone's safety. So I was ashamed. I wasn't allowed to tell people where I was. And I was ashamed. It was like the biggest thing, like I didn't really share with people what was going on. There were a few people who knew. And that was a challenging experience on its own emotionally, to know that people knew and weren't doing anything about it, weren't supporting me in any way, weren't even communicating with me around it, just kind of pretended that it didn't happen. It really made me struggle with my worth.
For sure.
Yeah. So I was struggling with my worth. I was feeling very ashamed. There was just layers upon layers of difficult experiences to kind of sort through.
For sure.
At 21.
Yeah. So how did you, well, I'm guessing because you've been to a shelter before, so there's reprieve and safety, but like, what made you think to say, instead of calling your friend, to go to a shelter, knowing that would be somewhere where you like could escape to? You know what I mean?
I'm not even sure if I knew that it was someplace I could escape to, or knew even, frankly, like what I was doing. Like I just Googled for help, and I just knew I needed help, but I didn't know how I needed help. Like it was really just a one foot in front of the next. And then before you know it, you're like, okay, now I'm at this shelter. Like, now what? And I didn't even feel necessarily safe or comfortable even at the shelter. Like it's a weird experience.
Of course, I try and imagine putting myself in your shoes, and it's like, how much do you share with people? How much do you keep to yourself? And I guess I've been fortunate. I haven't been in a circumstance like that, but when you're there, like, what is that experience like? And is there community? Is there like support and resources? Like, I visited from like an outsider perspective to shelters to help and volunteer and things like that, but I haven't like been in it on the other side.
There is definitely, they work hard to create a sense of community. And it's interesting now, like, again, being on the other side of it and going back to so many different shelters frequently, it's interesting because I really see the sense of community. But when you are in a heightened mode of survival and when you're having trauma responses, the last thing I wanted to do was connect with anybody. I really stuck to myself. I really wasn't really trusting anybody. I was in the furthest space of like even accepting anyone's kindness or support. I was really skeptical of everything. So I didn't allow myself to be really a part of the community per se, even though there was a sense of one. They worked really hard to make sure that people felt welcomed. So it wasn't to anyone's doing that. I didn't feel welcome.
You were handling things at the time.
Yeah.
So how long were you there for, and how did you kind of figure out what next steps were, and how did you kind of navigate, I guess, the end of the relationship and really the moment of not going back?
Yeah, so that was not the moment that I didn't go back. I went back home after the shelter.
Okay.
And then, so I was in the shelter for 7 days. You can stay up to 2 months, and I just wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there. And I was telling myself in my mind too that like I'm taking a bed from a woman who actually needs it. And I think that that's a common thing for a lot of women. There's a lot of like biases and stereotypes that that people who live in shelters are a particular type or way, or which is just not true. But I felt like I needed to get out of there. So I I had been nursing an idea, and I had shared this with my partner too, and he was so supportive of it, given like his entrepreneurial experience, and he was very, very successful in his career as an entrepreneur. And so I told him that I wanted to start a cosmetic line, and I wanted to give $1 back from every product sold to women's shelters because of the experience that I had as a child. And that was actually where it all started. So I already had that dream before I went into the shelter. Then when I went into the shelter, I was like, it was a different kind of connection to that dream.
Right.
And there was one bathroom in the shelter, and there's 29 women. So that like 5 minutes alone in the shelter, I really took my time to put myself together to, really try to not look the part of the stereotypes. And I also saw how that benefited me. So in the shelter a lot, like the staff and other people would say, Brandi's not going to be here for long. Like she's got it sorted out. She'll be gone soon. And that almost made me feel, and I'm grateful for that. In the moment, I was really frustrated by it because I felt this sense of pressure to have it together when I really internally did not. But I'm so grateful for it now because it is the reason why I was like, I got to get out of here. And so I started photoshopping fake makeup products on my Pirate Bay version of Photoshop.
I love this. You created a product before you even had a product.
Yes. and I just watched YouTube videos and just taught myself how to navigate Photoshop to mock up these products. And then I created this catalog. And then now this is one of those things where like I would not have the guts to do this now, or at least not in the same way. I took that fake catalog around to local boutiques and sold them the fake products. And obviously, like this is not a fire festival story. So like, I did actually bring the products to life. Yeah, I did actually bring the products to life. But that's how I started. It wasn't called Evio at the time. It was called Karma Face Cosmetics, and that was how I got on my feet and out of the shelter, and started building and scaling and employing other women in the shelter, and then it eventually evolved into Evio.
Wow. Okay, so what was the name prior? You said Karma.
It was called Karma Face.
Karma Face. Where did that name come from?
I thought, what goes around comes around.
Oh.
And I really thought that, if I just focus my energy on something good as opposed to all this chaos happening around me, then good things will come to me, and those who, their karma will come to them too. And that's why I was calling it Karma Face.
I love that. Yeah. So how did Evio come about?
So ironically, my ex trademarked Karma Face Cosmetics and sued me.
No, you're kidding. After everything, and you could have pressed charges. We didn't even touch on that, and you chose not to.
I had no money. I had no resources. I had $15 in my laptop and 2 changes of clothes when I moved into the shelter. I was 21. I had no idea what I was doing. So he filed the trademark with SIPO, and then he, the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, and then he sent out cease and desist to everybody who was supporting me.
No.
Everybody.
I assume you also had investors as well.
No, not at that point.
Not at that point?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We just, any of the small boutiques that were pre-ordering from me, and then the manufacturer that I was working with. And I had gone home. So we were back living together.
And he did this while you were back living together?
No. So one day I was like, I have to leave. So I told him I was going to my sister's place, and I drove the 13 hours. In fact, I don't even know if I told him I was going to I don't know what I told him, but I drove the 13 hours to my sister's place. And then he ended up coming there. And so then I ended up saying, I got to go to my aunt's. So then I drove another 5 hours and went to my aunt's. And then he came to my aunt's. And then there was a dispute, and I ended up in the hospital.
Oh my God.
And ultimately then we went to the police station afterwards, and then there was a warrant for his arrest. And so he was on house arrest awaiting his trial when he filed for the trademark.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
After everything you did, and you have nerve to try and take something from me.
All I have left.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's a sense of control, I think, that happens. Like when you feel like you're
Yeah.
losing control, you grasp to anything. And I genuinely think that in some of I don't know, maybe this is again like a narrative, a story that I tell myself, that he really thought like I'm gonna help her, like I'm gonna file for the trademark, we're gonna get back together, and this is gonna be this one of these lavish gifts that I give her when we make up.
I see.
Like
He saw it as a way of like, I'm helping her.
Oh,
do
totally.
this.
I really think so. But then sends cease and desist to everybody. And then I could only afford karmafacecosmetics.com because it was like $1 on GoDaddy. Like, you know, and karmaface.com was one of the premium ones. It was like a couple $1,000s. And like, I couldn't buy that. He ended up buying karmaface.com and posted photos from the arrest and from the assault and said, I won't tell them that you were actually the one who hit me, because he had a black eye in his mugshot.
No. Okay, so after you, the cease and desist, and after all of that happened, like, so you feel so defeated at this point. You're like, I'm trying so hard to move forward and I can't.
Yeah.
What was your next step? Again, like that's like another level of resilience even. And
I
like,
was in
how do you
a
have
bad
anything
place.
left in you, Brandi, at this
I was
point?
in such a bad, I would, and to be really frank, I feel like this is the most frank I've ever been on any interview. You are so easy to talk to, Nicole.
Thank you.
I was suicidal at that point. Like I was so done. And I ended up going and meeting with some lawyers. I was more eager to fight for Karma Face than I was to fight for any kind of justice for the experiences that I have for myself. Because what was done. And this, like, I was now moving forward. But every step I took, I felt like I was just being knocked back down. And so I wanted to fight for Karma Face. So I was meeting with lawyers. And I remember leaving a lawyer's office that they're like, you're not going to win this. Like, he's just going to keep bearing you and bearing you. He has so many resources. You have nothing. Like, he's just going to keep making your life miserable. You need to just, like, give him what he wants.
What?
Yeah.
That's the worst piece of advice I have ever heard.
I know. It was brutal. But then again, like we were talking about this earlier about how sometimes the universe, like, you know, just, so I was walking home, I literally still have a photo of this sticky note. I was walking home and I had moved into a nice building with a concierge after I left the shelter. And I had like a roommate there that I found on Craigslist. And he was like this big, burly, amazing man who was a chef at a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And like, he was so kind. He really felt like a big brother. I felt super, super safe living in this one bedroom and den. He took the den. He gave me the one bedroom apartment. And it was a really nice apartment with a doorman and stuff. So I felt safe there. And I was leaving the lawyer's office, walking, and there was a sticky note on the side of the building that I had just moved into, and it said, stay strong.
No way.
Yeah, like these wild little moments in my life that like are like you can't explain.
Yeah, like signs of them like pushing you, like keep going, keep going. It's gonna work out for you.
Yeah. And so I took a picture of it. Aww. And I went upstairs and I just cried. And I had like no furniture or anything. I had a mattress on the floor. And I was in a really, really bad place. But then I just picked myself up and kept going. And again, also a lot of support from people around me. I was doing like makeup artistry at the time, and I had an agent, and I was doing like bridal and things like that. That's how I was, keeping things moving. And my agent was like, Brandi, you gotta keep going. You got something here, and I will help you. And she ended up putting in like the first money into the company and buying me a new laptop and like getting things moving. And her name's Evelyn, and my middle name's Iona. Oh. And so if you squish them together, it creates EVO.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's really cool. So how did this brand then evolve? How did you get, okay, so you got everybody to kind of believe in what you wanted to create. What was the next steps in actually then finding the manufacturer and going through with everything?
Honestly, like super simple.
Like,
it's just Google.
Really,
Google. That's where I feel like that's where you start everything. Yeah. It's just like you go to Google. I think we make things more complicated than they need to be.
The ideas that you like build up in your head of this is gonna be too hard, this is gonna be too overwhelming, which is why a lot of people I don't think even like do what they set out to do.
Yeah, or rejection or whatever it might be, But just Google and And then I learned what white label was. So white label is when a manufacturer just makes mass amounts of like a product and sells it to multiple brands. So then you can get small product, like small, instead of having to do like large minimum order quantities, you can do like 20 pieces as opposed to 25,000 pieces. So I started then, I was like, okay, great. Well, I just need, 50 lip glosses. And so I started with a white label company. And then eventually, obviously, we scaled, grew. We do all custom manufacturing now. But that's how I started.
Wow. And so tell me about creating this line and how like, I mean, you get to live out both of your passions really and like giving back in a way that's like very close to you, but also being like artistic and entrepreneurial and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, so EVO is all about reducing the effects of stress on your skin and on your community and in your homes. And so what I love about that is, it really encompasses the aspect of like we all know what stress and also other people can see themselves in it as well, because I think a lot of people relate to my story, unfortunately. But also everyone can relate to experiencing their own version of stress and what that does to your confidence, what that does to your skin, actually scientifically, what that does to your skin and your body and your organs and your health and all of these things. And so being able to create a product that scientifically helps combat that, along with also creating a product that helps give back into the community that's going to combat stress in the community as well, is something that, really drives me. And I'm really grateful that I get to do it every day. Yeah.
Did you ever think that it would kind of like evolve in the way that it has? Like, I know it's one thing to like have a dream and kind of sit with that and all these thoughts, but then to actually see it like play out is like a whole other thing too.
It's when you're okay. Maybe do you experience this when you're in it? You're so in it.
Yeah.
You don't really have like
you don't take yourself out and be like, wow, look at all of this.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm still putting out fires like every day, left, right, and center, being like, what am I doing? Literally yesterday, I had a bit of a mental breakdown, and I was like, I just want to light it all on fire. I'm done. I quit. So it's sometimes hard to acknowledge it when you're in the middle of it, but then there are these little moments that like all of a sudden you just get hit with like, wow. Like,
I did this.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. I hope that you take this moment, if anything, right now to reflect after like talking through everything and realize what you've been able to create. And like, Brandi, it's really admirable, the resilience that you have. And I read something that I listened, I can't remember if it was a video or a quote that you said online, that it's resilience isn't something that we're all just born with. It's something that's taught, which I think is like something more people need to be reminded of.
It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets and the quicker you can bounce back.
How did you get this resilience? Besides like what you've gone through, like even just like on a mental, again, it was like, was it those little reminders that you saw sprinkled through, like belief in yourself? Like how did you keep going? Even today, like when you have these fires and even like, like what do you do? What's the reminder for yourself that maybe somebody else could relate to or learn from you?
Genuinely, I just have like really strong faith in the fact that all of this is happening for a reason. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, this is going to sound so woo-woo, but a lot of the time I feel like something's working through me and it has nothing to do with me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. I really feel like, and it's not like a religious thing or anything like that. Yeah. I just like these little sticky notes, like these little moments, like the fact that I ended up being booked for the shelter that I was at as a child. Like these little things that there's no way I could have planned that or forced that, and they're such significant moments that feel unreal. Because even if you did try to line everything up for that to happen, like the likely of some of these things happening is, even for example, like for Canadian listeners, we launched at Shoppers Drug Mart.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I get asked all the time, like people work their whole career to get with the goal to get into Shoppers Drug Mart. I got a LinkedIn message from a buyer at Shoppers Drug Mart saying like, will you jump on a call with me? And I was like again, like I know how hard it is to get in there, but the fact that it came to me is something that I don't take for granted. And I truly feel like that's just something bigger than me. And same with like there's a few other projects that we're working on right now that I know, like I just finished writing my first book.
I was going to ask you, it's coming out next year,
It
right?
is,
You're an author. That's so
Thank
exciting.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And again, like HarperCollins came to me, and I know how hard it is to get a book deal. I do not take that for granted for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it has to be something so much bigger than me, and just holding faith in that, even on the days when I want to burn it all down. It's like, it's not about you, Brandi. It never was.
Yeah.
Even the hard times, even the really difficult experiences, it was never about me. Someone else, like harming me is also never about me.
Mm-hmm.
None of this was ever about me. So just like holding that faith is, I think, what gives me a lot of resilience, is just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You don't have to conquer everything today, and just hold that faith in that there is a meaning to all of this.
Yeah, that's really very poetic and beautifully said. And it's interesting too, and I don't know if you see it this way, but I think it's a timing thing too. It was like the Shoppers Drug Mart offer came to you, and like the book deal came to you because at that moment you were ready for it. You weren't like chasing something that you weren't ready for. Do you know what I mean? Where I feel like also like the universe pushes you, or certain things happen because you have to experience it and go through it to be ready for those things to come.
Yeah.
Instead of chase. Like I have like a spiritual healer. And so
I
when you
love
say
it.
woo-woo,
I need to
I'm all
get their
about the woo-woo.
information. Oh, I'm here for it.
I'm all about the woo-woo. And she had said something to me like so profound, Leanne, she's amazing, that she's like, Nicole, your whole life you've been chasing things. Because I'm like a natural like go-getter and like a very like ambitious person. She's like, I challenge you to sit and just let things be. And that's when things will start coming to you. And I like really had a hard time kind of being like, so I'm just supposed to like sit here and like wait and just like keep doing what you're doing. Like don't, and sitting in that was so uncomfortable because it didn't feel productive or like I was, doing enough. But like in doing that, I feel like so many of the right things in my life have come when I was like ready to receive it. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm the type of person who like definitely sits quietly and like waits for things. And
I feel like you're an observer. I don't know why. I feel like you like sit and listen, and then you like you said, and then internalize things. Like
I internalize. I am constantly like going through a million things in my head at any given time. And my focus always is not where I'm going, not where my business is going, but who I'm becoming in the process. And I truly think that has been a big part of the key to the success that I've experienced thus far, is that I'm not focused on getting that deal. I'm really focused on like, who am I becoming? And then to your point, I'm so fortunate that some of these opportunities have come to me. And, but again, also on the flip side of that, I know it's not about me. Like the book deal, we were also really fortunate to get a movie deal. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And the Shoppers deal, like it's not about me. And so the more that I can work on like just becoming the best version of myself, or learning whatever experiences I'm supposed to learn in this lifetime, so that, if I'm reincarnated, I don't even know if that's something, but if I'm reincarnated, what can I leave to that next being, or, what that is from, because everything that you accumulate, any success or anything like that, all gets left behind. All I can control is like what's happening here. And I feel like that's also something that I learned, I think, going through a lot of like hard times and physical abuse, is that like when you no longer feel like your body is your own, I feel like I really made a commitment to myself that like this always would be. And so I think that I have this particular connection with like whatever is happening, that whatever anyone's going to feel or experience. I think this too from like the book, for example. I hope that people read it. Like I still also have imposter syndrome. So I'm like, I hope someone reads it.
Of course.
And like HarperCollins is publishing it. They know how to distribute a book. Someone will read your book, Brandi.
And you have something to say in your book. So yes, people will read it.
Thank you. But I still struggle with that like imposter syndrome aspect of it. But for me, I really decided, and this is kind of how I look at life too, and like what I'm trying to express is that if no one reads it, I'm totally fine. because I wanted to allow the experience of writing it to change me. I hope that the book changes someone else, but it's out of my control. What's in my control is how I'm going to allow that experience to change me, and it really did. And that's really kind of how I look at like building my business and building my life, and like how is this experience going to change me as a person? And if success in other measures come from it, amazing. But if not, that I'm really okay with that. I've been in a shelter before. I've been in these experiences. And they're really not that bad if I can just keep this, you know? So I don't know. I don't know if my point's getting across.
Yeah, it is. Like, that's incredibly wise advice. And thank you for sharing that with me and the audience, because I think, I mean, it sounds like simple, but it's very hard also to do that. And they say your mind controls. I believe this too. Like, your thoughts are like everything. And I think like, you know, healthy mind, healthy like body, really. And but it's so powerful that sometimes it's really hard to also have like control, as you're saying, like over that.
Totally. And okay, this is again going back to the woo-woo stuff.
I love the woo-woo stuff.
So we were talking about the gym before we started recording.
Yes, we were, yeah.
And so when I go to gym classes, like I'm really fortunate. I'm really, really grateful that my body has been really good to me. But when I go to these fitness classes, like my husband's really, really into fitness, and a lot of my friends are, and they always make fun of the classes that I go to, or like the way that I am in these classes, because I'll go to a boxing class and I just like feel very in tune with my body. So if I'm like, I don't want to do that, I will just hug the bag for the next 10 minutes. And like, they're like, and everyone's following the instructor, and I'm just following my soul and my body, and I'm just in the class. And they're like, but then we walk out and they're like, why do you have a six pack? And they're like,
that is the greatest thing I've ever heard. And I hope I get to be in a class. And like, I don't like see you come into it, but I see you hugging the bag. And I'm like, I know that's Brandi. I can't see because it's black in here, but I know it's Brandi.
You'll know it's me. Or I was literally at a class earlier today, and they were doing some kind of crazy move. And I was like, okay, so I just like sat, crossed my legs, and just meditated till everyone else was done that move, and then just
I love that
moved
for
on
you.
to whatever felt right for me.
I love that so much. That's amazing. Really quick, I know that you're married now, and you just like you had your anniversary. What was it? You've been married for 2022. It's coming up. Okay, that's it.
Well, we eloped in February, so we eloped on 2/2/22/22.
I love that. Where did you elope to?
In Mandarina, Mexico.
Oh,
at One and Only, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
But that was just the two of us, and we didn't sign legal paperwork. And then we had like a whole Indian, like Hindu wedding on June 10th, the following year, 2023. So we celebrate all of them.
As you should. Tell me about this relationship, and, you know, how did you know he was the one also? I mean, having gone through what you've gone through, it changes you in a different way. You approach new relationships in a very different way. How did you kind of know that he was your person?
Yeah. He's going to hate that I share this. So we met on Hinge.
Okay. And lots of successful relationships off of Hinge. Yeah,
but he did not deserve a first date. I will be so honest with you. He canceled our first date 4 times.
No.
And he's going to cringe when he watches this. And then he canceled. We were supposed to meet at like 7 p.m. on this one time, and he canceled because he was sick. And then I received like we were in our 20s. Yeah. So like I received a drunk text from him at like 11 p.m. that same night that he canceled our date. Okay. Being like, meet me at this bar.
And you're like, did you forget that you said you were sick?
Yeah. I was like, sir, what is wrong with you? Like, absolutely not. But then we continued to kind of like talk here and there. I didn't just totally ghost him after that. And he asked me out on just like a coffee date. So this was like a small committal. And I remember being at the office and telling my assistant at the time that like, this guy has canceled this date like 4 times, and telling her this. And she's like, Brandi, I've never seen you go like date anybody, which was true. I've never seen you like date anybody. I never see you go out. You live here at this office. Like, you're not allowed to come back to the office till like 6 p.m. Just leave. And so I did meet up with him. I was running late, and he was like, "Oh, I'll just be in like this store." So as I was walking in, he was like walking out, and as soon as I saw him smile, I was like, "That is like a warm smile. That is a warm human being."
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and I really was like, that I'm gonna marry that man.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you knew off of
I know that sounds so cliche, but I really
all.
was like, I'm gonna marry that human right there. And he did not feel the same way.
This is a great story.
He did not feel the same way. So our date, we walked, we went, it was December 11th, so we ended up going to the Christmas market and walking around. And he's very into like, he's very type A, and he's very like planning his next year and his New Year's resolutions, and I'm very type B. And so he asked me like, what was the most like transformative thing of your year this past year? And I was like, oh, I smoked toad venom in the desert of Topanga. And he was like, this is a little like boy who was born and raised in India and then grew up in Newfoundland, like
conservative living.
Conservative living. He had just moved to Toronto, so just moved to the big city, like literally a couple months earlier.
Yeah.
And he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I smoked toad venom and like went on this psychedelic trip. And he was like, this girl's insane. This is not my human. But then our date ended, it was supposed to be coffee. It turned into like an 8-hour-long date.
Aww.
He then walked me home. We walked my dog together. And then the next morning, he called me and asked me out again that night. He was going home back to Newfoundland for the like 3 weeks for Christmas. So he's like, I'd like to see you again before I go. And so we ended up going out that night to Cirque du Soleil. And then that night we were talking about things that we wanted to do. And he had said that the following year he wanted to go to New York. He had never been to New York again, like small town boy, just moved to Toronto, which was like the big city.
Yeah.
So he's like, I want to go to New York, but like I want it to be like the way it is in the movies. And so it just so happened that following weekend, so he then flew back to Newfoundland. That following weekend, I actually had to go to New York for work. And so I messaged him and was like, I get that this is bold, but I have to go to New York for work this weekend. Would you like to come with me?
That is bold, Brandi.
And so he was already in Newfoundland, so there's no direct flight. So it was a 13-hour trip for him to come to Newfoundland to come to New York for our third date.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I imagine he did.
He did, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then from that moment on, we were together and got married. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's really, really sweet. Is he super supportive of all of this? And I mean, you're like a boss lady. So like, it's also, I feel like challenging to find a partner who wants a strong woman. As much as every guy says, you know, I want a strong woman who is like independent and does all these things. Majority of men, in my personal experience, are like super threatened by that.
Yeah.
They don't like to say that, but it is that.
I told you as soon as I walked in, I was like, I'll always be honest.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. What I really, really appreciate about my husband is that he's always willing to like grow and work on it. And
that's what a relationship is about.
Yeah, but it is a challenge. And also, I mean, he comes from a very traditional family where women are the house makers and homemakers and are, stay-at-home moms. And so this is a huge shift for
opposite.
him. And he lived at home until he was like 28 years old. I left when I was 17.
Yeah.
And so we were on very different paths of our lives. And that's kind of also what makes it so incredible, is that he gives me the sense of stability and this safety and this like unconditional love. And I give him a sense of adventure.
Totally. New experiences.
And this sense that life can be so much bigger.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
beautiful.
I think that, we're just really, we're good to each other. Yeah.
I think I say this because my parents were like living proof of this. Like opposites really do attract because you like balance one another and then you can learn something from one another. And that like obviously then makes you grow together. So yeah, thanks for being honest, by the way, because not everyone is honest about that sort of thing. And yeah, it's hard also because like, yeah, life changes. And so going through those these big changes, that's when couples really like put in the work to like stay and like on track and like grow together, or when honestly like a lot of relationships fall apart.
Totally. And marriage is hard. And also, like, I come from a lot of divorce. Like, my partner does not know divorce.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of, like, there has been multiple times where I'm like, I want a divorce. And he's like, it's not happening, babe. It's not happening. And I'm really grateful for that in retrospect, because I would be quick to that. Whereas he's like, okay, let's sit down. Let's, sort this out. And so I really appreciate that he keeps us stable in that way.
I love that. Okay, so plug yourself. Take this moment, Brandi, plug yourself, where people can find Evio Beauty, where people can expect to find more information about if you're doing any talks. Also your book, when this movie is coming out.
Yes.
Tell me everything.
Yeah, so you can find Evio at eviobeauty.com, or we're in 460 Shoppers Drug Marts across the country. So any Shoppers Drug Mart that has a beauty boutique, you can find Evio. And the book will be coming out across the country, wherever you buy books. It's called Fearless Choices, Make a Decision, Change Your Life. And it's all about how to reclaim your power one choice at a time. And the movie, once I have more updates about the movie, I will let you know. But it's in production.
Wow.
And it's set to film in Q1 of 2026.
Wow.
And
are you like, is it like, what is it, a docuseries?
It's a feature film.
Okay, feature film.
Yeah, it's a feature film.
So were you a part of casting who is playing you?
They're in the middle of casting.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. That's amazing.
And it's wild. I have not, like, I've been a consultant on the film, but I optioned my story to the film, so they have complete creative rights. And what's really cool about it is they're all women. The whole executive team is all women.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so they have their own stories and experiences, and I really feel like in the script, so I've read this, I've read all versions of the script, and in the script, you can, I think women who watch this film are going to see themselves in it.
That's beautiful.
And so I'm learning to be patient with the film industry. Like, it changes and evolves and it moves. So
hurry up and wait. There's a ton of that.
Yeah, but the experience has been incredible, and to get to be get to be a part of that, to have that experience, it's a once in a million lifetime. You go to a party and they're like, in like a movie, who would play you? And
I was gonna say, and you're like, actually, I'm like doing that right now.
And now you're
Can
like,
we manifest this for you for a hot second of like a few people of who you would like to play you?
So I literally am the type of person who like lives under a rock and does not know who anyone is.
Fair.
But then when some like names and stuff got floated around, I obviously started like researching and diving in deep, and I was like, oh my God, like became obsessed and like really emotionally connected to a multitude of different actresses that could play Brandi, and it's beyond my wildest dreams, like the names that they've discussed. So it's wild to get to be a part of that. And it's funny too, when we're having discussions, we have to like decipher being like Brandi the human, and Brandi the character. And it's difficult too. Like, it's a lot of self-reflection in that experience, because reading through these scripts, like, I don't like Brandi all the time. Like, as a character
because
and
you're
as a human.
Here now. That was like Brandi probably then too, right?
Totally. So. And it's also like a character arc. It's being a real human. You're not always likable, like to yourself or to others. Like, it's just part of life. And so it was interesting to be writing the book alongside reading scripts of other people's narratives of my life and of me. It really forced me to do a lot of self-work. So it's going to be interesting to see it on the big screen for sure.
I cannot wait. You most certainly have to come back here before everyone watches it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. When do you think it would come out?
I don't know. Maybe 2027.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see. Again, like, the industry.
I know.
Yeah, and the team is absolutely incredible. Like, I also know now how difficult it is to even get a movie made.
It's very hard.
So anything could happen. But this team is absolutely incredible. And like, I'm so, so grateful to get to be part of that process with them.
That's amazing. Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish you nothing but the absolute best.
Thank
I
you,
hope I
Nicole.
see you in a workout class.
Yes. Come hug the bag with
yeah.
me. Come hug the bag.
I will. And thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so incredibly personal. And I know that it also is like draining having to share this and kind of carry this responsibility. And I just want you to know, and like genuinely, I think you're changing people's lives. I think
Thank you for saying that.
I mean it. What you're doing is truly transformative and so incredibly inspiring. So thank you. And I can't wait to see like what's next for you.
Thank you so much. Oh,
This
I
is
hope
so
that this is
nice.
a start of like a friendship. You're so
Yeah,
cool.
me too. You're so cool.